Well, it's continuing to be an exciting DPAA summit, and we have many members all over the world because digital and digital out of home crosses borders quite readily with all best practices and all information. So with us today, we've got from folks that are in charge of Europe for their businesses. We've got Phil Hall, who's the joint MD of UK for Ocean Outdoor, a very substantive company now also expanding throughout Europe, and Aimee McKay, who is partnership director at Clear Channel, and Aimee's also got a UK remit. So welcome, guys. Nice to see you. How is the weather today in the UK?
It's not so bad today. After a few days of torrential rain, it's looking okay out there.
It's all right. It's all right. It's a good time to be out of home.
Excellent. I just got off the video with someone I heard two great lines today. One was, Barry, keep that sunshine in your pocket, which I kind of love. And then I was on a video with Tom Goddard, who I think you folks know, and he said, great line, stay positive and test negative. So I'm glad we're all positive. So good to see you folks. Let's talk about digital out of home in your markets. Aimee, something that it seems to be a great import from the US, and Dan Levy's work and others, Radar, which really is a great data system. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on there with Clear Channel?
Yeah, sure. So I think, it's fair to say for everyone, it's been a busy time over the last sort of 5-6 months, and I guess the importance of data to help understand what's been happening with audiences. So we talk very much about the fact that out of home is back, but it is different, and it's understanding what those differences are. So I guess a good thing that's come out of the pandemic is that the out of home industry as a whole has invested a lot in data, and the big difference being understanding real-time audience behaviors, which we couldn't do pre-COVID. So from a Clear Channel perspective, we launched our data platform Radar, which we've launched in the UK, but also in Spain, and soon to follow in Sweden. And the whole point of that is to understand how people are exposed to our portfolio, and understanding a bit more sort of granular detail around who those target audiences are. So I guess, big learnings that we've sort of seen is that there have been some radical shifts in behaviours. One of the key sort of learnings has been that people are spending more time locally as opposed to how they were previously spending more time in key cities. So as a starting point to sort of understand some of those changes, things where we've seen less of a divide between the likes of peak and off-peak. I look back to 6 months ago when we were answering briefs for the financial district in commuter hours, and that just doesn't exist at the moment. So, data has been incredibly important in being able to bring out of home back into this return phase, and obviously give confidence to more brands and advertisers out there.
Data is really the key fuel for so many businesses. In addition to that, I think what we've seen, in addition to data coming into the digital out of home place, is the offering of great flexibility now that out of home is becoming digital. Are you experiencing that in your business, in your markets, Phil?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, one of the main selling points of digital out of home has always been the flexibility. And I think the conditions we're in at the moment make that even more vital. We're seeing, quite rightly, clients wanting to be able to do away with much of the red tape and the cancellation terms that out of home has had in place for many years. And we, alongside Clear Channel and the other out of home operators, have made big strides in reducing those lead times, reducing that cancellation times. And we're in a situation here in the UK where the COVID pandemic is changing very rapidly. There's some weeks are very positive and some weeks are negative. We need to allow advertisers to be reactive as well as proactive with their campaigns and to adjust their messaging accordingly. And for me, the great benefit of digital out of home is you can do that. And I think it's one of the silver linings on this cloud is that that's becoming more and more apparent. But I think also the way that at a time when the nation is particularly divided over politics and over COVID, there is a great sort of democratization of out of home and digital out of home in particular. And we're seeing an interesting shift in the UK where a number of the leading agencies, Mediacom and OMD in particular, are talking about they have to be planning to reach all the diverse elements of their target audience. It's no good just buying media that appeals to a certain demographic within that target audience. And for me, this is one of the powers of digital out of home, that you can send a message as an advertiser that you know is reaching all parts of a community with an equal weighting. So that, plus the flexibility angle with the tech and the data that's coming into that market as well, I think means that whilst it's been a very, very difficult 6 or 7 months, we're going to come out of this really strongly.
That's great to hear, and thank you, Phil, for exposing the fact that digital out of home is encouraging democracy, even if other factors around the world are not. So I'm glad to hear that. And you talked about the flexibility, and I've heard from many advertisers all over the world and agencies that they appreciate the flexibility that our industry has offered to pause schedules or move schedules. So not only has that agility come from the nature of digital out of home, as you mentioned, but also from the increased automation and programmatic going on in our space. And Aimee, I would assume you folks are moving ahead on automation and other areas, right?
Yeah, most definitely. And, I think these are the times where you sort of praise the team for having done so much work sort of leading up to this. So, I'd say automation has been key in driving greater flexibility and agility to be able to react really quickly. When we think as a business about automation, we believe that's about rapid planning, so doing it at speed, and being able to book out of home, not only on digital, but also classic as well, but using the best in class planning tools. So, we've definitely benefited during this period that we've recently been through by being able to react really quickly and push content to thousands of screens across the country incredibly quickly at the switch of a button. I think with regard to programmatic, the journey continues. So from a clear channel perspective, we very much see programmatic as enabling trading of digital out of home audiences in the same way as other digital media. And, I'd say that it's an area where there's a lot of test and learn in both of the spaces. And actually what we're looking to do as a business to have more of a unified approach across our entire European business and making it as easy and accessible as possible. And I think, that is where we're sort of moving towards in the future, which is great.
That is great. And drilling down a little bit closer in that, Phil, you folks have made at Ocean a lot of announcements recently about plugging into programmatic systems and moving ahead. What's the latest with Ocean with DSPs and SSPs?
Well, we're pretty much 100% digital business, with the exception of a couple of our most iconic sites. And for me, sometimes I think when you're right in the midst of an industry, it's good to just take a step back and think about what a sensible policy is. And we're in a situation now where we have the digital capability to be able to switch on advertisers or switch on off advertising at the touch of a button. And in that world, having a 2-week in charge, which has served the industry so well for so many decades, often doesn't make sense. There will be some advertisers that want to use that and be on for 2 weeks, and that's the right thing to do. But if you're a brand who, for instance, makes a disproportionate amount of your sales in shopping malls on a Saturday morning, well, we should be able to be set up for that brand just to use our screens around Westfield, say, to advertise on that Saturday morning. And so we're moving to a cost per thousand trading model where, whilst you can still buy panels from us, our main trade and our main focus will be towards buying audiences. And once you make that shift from a trading point of view and from a planning point of view, you open up a whole different world for me in digital out of home, and we start to become very serious competitors to the online display world and certainly to the targeted TV world. I think out of home will always be a one-to-many medium. We're not going to start talking about personalization on out of home, because that's not the power of the medium. But being able to reach exactly the right sort of consumer at exactly the right time and make out of home more efficient is going to make it a much more attractive medium to clients and should bring new money into the medium. So for me, the real key for success will be how can we see advertisers putting more spend into out of home, but also how can we see advertisers who haven't traditionally spent on out of home put money into the medium, because all of a sudden the rules of the game have changed and they can get real value from it.
Yes, we've started to see that once again in different pockets of the world where the omni-channel monies coming from digital, from mobile, are now shifting because you have these capabilities in digital out of home. And relative to shifting, in the couple of minutes we have remaining, no longer does a schedule have to remain up for 13 weeks or 2 weeks, as you mentioned, Phil, but we can change the ad by the time, by the temperature, by the news. And if we speak to news for the moment, and if someone thinks about, what did you do during the war, Daddy? I think we've been able to change a lot of the signage by the news. And Phil, maybe you can talk for a brief moment about how digital advertising on screens has been able to affect and support municipalities and consumers during this COVID period.
Sure. I think as an industry in the UK, we've done ourselves proud during this time. I think if you look back at what happened, and obviously when the lockdown was announced in the UK, that audiences just simply disappeared overnight, and therefore, quite rightly, so did advertising messages. It would be very easy for our businesses to have gone dark and for us to have put filler on the screens or had no messaging out there. And instead, what we've had is a huge amount of goodwill as a result of putting out messaging that's been thanking our health services, thanking our key workers. Both of our businesses, Aimee's and my business, have supported small and medium enterprises in the UK. So put out free advertising to try and kickstart local economies, put out safety messaging as well. And at Ocean, we've got Piccadilly Lights, which is a fantastic site, the best site in the world. And we've used that as a real force for good. We think of it as the nation's notice board. So when the Queen gave a speech to the nation, encouraging them and to keep spirits up, we had the picture of the Queen up on the lights and some positive messaging around it. When a guy called Colonel Tom, Captain Tom, sorry, who was a fellow who raised an incredible amount, £32 million, I think it was, for charity, we featured him up on the lights. So what we've tried to do in a very dark time for the nation is use the power of digital out of home to provide really up-to-date, relative, positive messaging to keep spirits high, but also to remind people of the power of the medium.
That's great. And Aimee, just briefly, I know you guys have done some great work as well.
Yeah, I mean, so as a company, our mission is all about being a platform for brands and a platform for good. And I think it's fair to say that throughout this whole period, we've done exactly that. And, I love Phil's reference to out of home sort of acting as this notice board. And, we certainly felt that on a local level, being able to get messages out there, whether they were government related, sort of telling us to stay at home or to wear a mask or to get outdoors and help eat out, to help out scheme. So I think, out of home had this amazing role of equally as Phil says, about being this platform to tell these good messages and to make sure that we were pushing these safety messages to support the community, but also importantly to add a bit of colour, which is what we all needed. And it's been great to sort of see that carry on and continue. Now we've got these brands finally returning back to out of home as well.
That's great. I think this is a great way to end it. I sincerely want to thank both of you for your leadership, but as importantly, I want to thank Clear Channel for being a platform for brands and a platform for good. And Phil, during these dark times, we're all turning to the lights, the Piccadilly lights. So thank you all very much for this, and enjoy the rest of the DPAA Video Everywhere Summit. Thank you, folks.